Let's do some fan questions.
Hey Chael, I wanted to know your thoughts about being cocky in MMA fights and where's the limit of that cockiness? Because I saw the MVP versus Richard Kelly fight, and the ref, Dan Miragliotta, stopped the fight for a second because Michael Venom Page was being a little too cocky. So, is this part of the entertainment business, or should it be illegal to be too cocky in a fight?
Okay, so I got to correct your terminology here because this is very relevant. Cocky is open to interpretation. That is not an objective term, is it a subjective term? What MVP was penalized for was unsportsmanlike conduct, and that is totally different. The use of a racial slur is unsportsmanlike contact. There's two other things. There's some type of a foul, a physical foul, but there's one other thing that you can do, which I believe is a hand gesture. These are actually written down, not Chael's rules. There's a rule of what falls into the category of sportsmanlike contact, which is then ultimately decided and interpreted by the official and called live on the spot. That's what MVP was in violation of, and he was warned fair and square. The referee gave him a warning, said don't do it again. MVP did it again. Boom, the referee stepped in. I'm only correcting that because cocky is many times inaccurate, particularly with the professionals. Now, let me tell you what I meant. And it's not always true with the amateurs. I have seen many amateurs go in and be cocky, but all they're really trying to do is copy the professional. They just weren't as good at it, and they didn't understand why the professional did something, so they tried to mimic him. Cocky is what I would consider rude. You're being rude. You're being disrespectful. Disrespectful meaning if you put your hands down and your chin up in the middle of a fist fight, you don't respect your opponent. And many times we've seen guys get caught and put down or put to sleep. But that's also been misinterpreted where many pros, be it Roy Jones Jr., be it Anderson Silva, Chuck Liddell comes to mind at least to some level, that's actually what they're doing for a setup. They were never meaning to disrespect their opponent or be unsportsmanship like in any way, but they were trying to distract their opponent by giving him a look, by taunting him in some way, not to belittle him. Not to show the world I'm so much better than you. I don't need to worry about you. It was just a way to get a reaction. Sugar Ray Leonard was, for my experience, the original in doing this. Sugar Ray would lean in, he'd talk to you, he'd make faces. Sugar Ray Leonard used to roll the right hand, get you to look at it, pop you with the left, roll the right hand again, then pop you with the right hand. Go see Sugar Ray Leonard versus Donnie Lalonde. It's a very fun fight. Sugar Ray Leonard would roll that right hand, hit you in the body, roll that right hand, boom, hit you with an uppercut with the other. I mean, he just keep you guessing, but he was never doing it to be a prick or disrespect his opponent or the sport, at least not in my interpretation. My interpretation, based on the fact that he would make that gesture and then go on the offense, was, look, that's just what he's using for a setup. You can fake a jab to get a guy to flinch and freeze, or you can make a face at him. If you could get away with getting a reaction off of a face or a taunt or a word, it sounds like you got this thing figured out. Now, in fairness, in my interpretation, because you brought up MVP, I think that's what MVP was trying to do. He was just trying to get a reaction from his opponent so he could go on the attack. However, the rules actually state three things that you can't do. He fell into one of those three. Referee made his decision.
Hey, Uncle Chael, huge fan. Darren Till had some hard fights in welterweight, but when he moved up to middleweight to fight Gastelum, he looked like a different fighter. My question for you is, do you think he can be a real title challenger at middleweight, and do you think he's got what it takes to beat Robert Whittaker in London in March? Thanks.
Okay, I'm a two-part question. I'm going to go in order. Do I think Till has what it takes? I think Till's the number one contender. I think Till should be fighting Adesanya for the belt. That's what I think. He's a former number one contender at welterweight. He's moved up and he's now an undefeated middleweight. I understand that he's 1-0, but in the landscape that we have right now, where Weidman left the division, Jacare left the division, Luke Rockhold left the division, Adesanya's already fought Gastelum, who happened to lose to Till. Oh, and you have to take Whittaker out of the equation because he just fought Adesanya. Oh, and Paulo Costa's out. I think Till's the guy right now. But you ask a different question. You ask, how is he going to do with Robert Whittaker? Look, that's a hard night out. And that also the X's and O's of that do come down to styles. And Whitaker is a masterful kickboxer, which is where Till wants to keep the fight, at least in theory. The other side of it is if you close your eyes and try to picture this fight, I think that you're going to picture Whitaker as much bigger than Till. But I think what we're starting to see is that Till is really filling into that frame, and by the time they meet up in London, I don't know that size will be a factor. I really do think that Till's got everything that it takes, and I will also share with you that if you want to be on the other side of the cage from Rodder Whitaker when he's coming off a defeat, that's probably not going to be a great idea for you.
Hey Chael, it's your
Uncle
favorite.
Chael, what's up?
It's your favorite students from Pakistan medical schools, man. How you doing? Anyways, man, Mustafa here. He watched the fight yesterday.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, Chael, what are your thoughts on the Johnny Hendricks versus GSP fight? Because I watched it again last night, and I'm personally of the opinion that Johnny Hendricks aced it, bro. He should have won that fight. What are your thoughts on that fight? And what does the MMA community think about that fight, huh?
And you think Johnny Hendricks was on PEDs at the time?
For sure.
Because after that, he just, fell off. Anyways, take care.
All right, well, you guys are my favorite Pakistani medical students. You're right. I'm going to answer the PED question first. If you're a pack of doctors and you've come to your own conclusion, then I'm going to leave the fighter's opinion out of it. But I do remember that fight. That fight was from 2013, and I remember all hell broke loose that night. I mean, the executive director in Nevada, on top of a number of other scumbag reasons of why that guy had to go, was ultimately fired that night because of that fight and because of his response to it. Dana White was beside himself. He thought it was such a robbery. I saw it the other way. I saw it 3 rounds to 2. I realized that Johnny Hendricks beat GSP up more than GSP beat him up, but this is under a 10-9 must system, and I argue that Hendricks did most of his damage within 2 rounds, within a 10-minute frame, and that George St. Pierre barely, but all the same, did win the other 15 minutes, which was all broken up in decibels separated by 5, and GSP, fair and square, won that 3-2. I saw it the same way that 2 other judges did. I haven't rewatched it like you guys, and the only reason I offer this critical of an analysis is that if you went back and watched it, maybe you are inclined to go back and watch it again and just see if you think I'm right. I will concede to you that Johnny Hendricks beat George up more than George beat up Johnny. But I have to remind you, it's a 10-9 must system, and every single round is judged in and of itself with no influence to what happened prior or later. The scores get turned in and they get tallied up. It's the way the sport is done, and under a 10-9, I had it 3 rounds to 2, George St. Pierre.
Yo, what's up, Chael? This is Sean from Philly. I saw you in New York City at UFC 244 at Masvidal versus Diaz. A crazy fight. Wasn't able to get a picture with you, but my question is, Conor McGregor and Donald Cerrone are finally going to fight January 18th in Las Vegas. I know people want to say Conor has the better striking, Donald has better ground game with submissions and wrestling. So, in your opinion, what are some of the intangibles that could play factor in this fight? And ultimately, who do you think is going to come out on top of?
Okay, so I got to tell you, we are just on the heels of this news. So as we dig into the X's and O's of this fight, let's give it a little bit of time. And don't forget with Conor McGregor, because he has been absent from the sport, he has an ability to create a brand new narrative, whether it's true or not. If Conor is to come out tomorrow and tell us all he has worked on in the last 2 years is his jiu-jitsu, taking the back and putting in a rear naked choke, you're going to listen. And whether it's true information or not, if he comes out with a straight face and a microphone in his hand, he can redraw the narrative of this fight. And while I do not predict for you that's what's going to happen, I'm just sharing with you the X's and the O's can change. And when you ask about the intangibles, I think that it's twofold. First off, the weight class. 170 pounds significantly changes things because it begs 2 questions, and they're both fair. First off, will Conor McGregor have the power to put down Cowboy Cerrone? Because he's fought at welterweight 2 other times and he did not have that power. Second question, why is Conor at 170? Is it because in the last couple of years he hasn't been training and hasn't been active in the gym and his body has just naturally gained weight and he's a little bit out of shape? Or is it, no, I just like the challenge and I want to show everybody I'm not scared, and Dana challenged me, in my opinion, 2 months ago on TMZ by saying that George Masvidal was too big for me and now I'm coming after his ass. I don't know the answer. But those are the intangibles, and I do think that it's important before this fight goes off, we make our decision, our best guess on what those answers and where they lie before you place any bets. I think that would at least be wise. Let me add a third. Donald Cerrone's double leg takedown. It's unsuspected. He lures you in, but he took down everybody from Cote and controlled him to Rick Story and controlled him. He even took down Tony Ferguson. He lacked the control. A scramble happened, but Donald still got the takedown. I'm just sharing with you, that guy has A+ level double leg, and he will tackle you, and his ground game is underrated. Go ask Barboza about his ground game. You will come away with a different level of respect. And I think when you do factor in those takedowns, and this isn't a grappling heavy, Chad Mendes style versus Conor McGregor match. It's not that. These are two strikers that you get to fight back and forth as long as your jaws will move about which one's the better striker. But then eventually you got to settle into which one of them's a better wrestler. And that's not going to be as long of an argument. That's going to favor Cowboy.
Hey Chael, longtime fan here. Chase at the University of Texas at Austin. My question for you today was, now that the fight between Tony and Khabib seems to be official, what do you think Tony's best strategy is to take away Khabib's O? Should he keep it standing with him? Should he scramble out of his takedowns? Or should he just go to the ground with him and fight him from there?
All right, no, absolutely not. You should not go to the ground with a guy and fight him there. You go to the ground when you have to go to the ground, and then you got to fight him from there. But no, I don't think that he needs to elect that. I will also remind you, Tony Ferguson does not go to his back because he's forced there. He likes that position. And if some point in the fight, and it will happen likely in the first round, he'll end up in that spot, and then he'll make a decision and let us know. Do I want to continue fighting there, or did I not like it? And I just am not convinced that Tony has to be on his back. I just think he's too good of a wrestler. If you're fighting Khabib, you just really need to know one thing, because there's so much chaos going to go on inside of a fist fight, let alone against somebody as good as Khabib, and let alone against Khabib himself. That if you could just focus on one thing, this is real simple. Keep your back off the fence. The entire narrative and dialogue about Khabib being a great wrestler, he's a very good wrestler. That's where it ends. He is not great. He's not. In MMA wrestling, specifically up against the fence, he is a monster amongst men. He is a man amongst, what's the analogy I'm looking for? He's really good on the fence. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If you keep your back off the fence against Khabib, boy, you limit his takedowns by 90%. By 90%. It is 9-1 where Khabib will take you down. The open versus against the fence. If you're fighting Khabib, whether you're Tony Skills or anybody else's, keep your back off the fence. Easier said than done? Yes. But I also feel that I'm the only one saying it. I also feel nobody else has quite broken this down and understood that Khabib is not the wrestling monster he is pegged to be unless he pushes you against the fence.